Don't knock on my door. I live alone on a small island for a reason. Don't knock on my door, unless you want me to know how you will die. I came back to the Loch to try and understand my past. We'd left before I was a teenager to live in Canada, and in my 40s, I travelled back to Loch Wraith in an effort to understand my heritage. I should have listened to my father and stayed where it was cold but safe. My grandfather came from Scotland and worked on one of the small islands sustained by fresh water and famed for whisky. The Wraith Distillery. It had existed for 90 years. Stepping off the ferry and breathing in the fresh air, it hit my senses and I felt I was home. In spite of the light, misty drizzle, I felt excited. The narrow roads took some getting used to, but I was able to find the rented cottage fairly easily. It was near a port, and I could see another ferry coming in as I parked up. The seagulls raged around me, determined to steal some chips from unsuspecting tourists. I was here for just over a week, but the only visit I cared about was to Wraith Distillery, the distillery where my grandfather worked, and the island he never left. I joined a small tour with some people from all over the world. Our guide Callie was enthusiastic, with fiery curly hair, and she chatted easily to us throughout the tour, explaining how the drink was distilled, the aging process, different casks they sourced to give the rich, distinctive flavour. But as the tour group was walking past the warehouses, I saw her nod her head to warehouse number 2. I thought nothing of it until I saw a worker coming the other way touch 2 fingers to his forehead in salute, also to warehouse number 2. Walking back later, after a tour of the casks, I saw another worker tug at the peak of his cap in deference. "Why do you guys do that?" I asked the guide later, as she was pouring tasters for the group. "Oh," she hesitated, "it's just an old superstition." I gave her encouragement to say more. "Well, it's something everyone has always done," she shrugged. "I asked my pa about it once. He used to work here. The founders of the distillery believed there's a spirit in there, and so we have to acknowledge it when we pass. Always. That's it," she concluded, handing out the small drams to people. The tour finished, but I hung back to speak with Callie again. "Would it be possible to have a tour of warehouse number 2, I asked. She shook her head and smiled sadly. "I'm sorry, that warehouse is closed to the public. Even we don't go into it that often, just when we have to." But I was determined. I explained my family's connection to the distillery. She was surprised and interested. "Well, let me ask one of the bosses." She came back with an older man. "You're Garrick's grandson?" he asked, shaking my hand. Yes, I am. We left the area before I really got to know what my grandfather did here, but I'm fascinated. I would love to look around if that's possible, and I'd be happy to pay extra." I realised I'd said the wrong thing, as both Callie and Jeff flinched. "I'm sorry, I just want to learn more about where he worked." Callie and Jeff looked unwilling. "We can show you," said Jeff slowly, "but this isn't like the other warehouses you were just shown around. You have to take care. And please, you must follow the instructions we give you clearly, to the letter." Jeff and Callie looked at each other and then he nodded. Callie left us but came back a few minutes later with an old, dusty tumbler. "You must follow our guidance, remember?" I nodded. Jeff opened the warehouse door. It creaked from disuse, as though complaining about having been woken up. Callie stayed outside, but she looked nervous. Inside it was dark, but the smell was astonishing. Nothing like the other warehouses. The air was steeped in whiskey, oak and smoke, and something else, something I didn't recognise, something which was unfamiliar. "You know the saying of the angel share," said Jeff. "Some of the spirit in the barrel evaporates, and the saying is that's the angel share?" I nodded. "Well, in here, we always leave a share in a glass, but it's not for the angels." "Who's it for?" I asked, whispering. "We don't know," murmured Jeff, now going to one of the casks, taking out the stopper. He reached near the barrel and retrieved a long brass tube. "What's that?" I asked. He smiled. "It's called a whiskey thief. It's what we use to test the whiskey." Using it, he dipped the long tube inside the barrel, covering the top with his thumb. He pulled it out, and then poured a healthy measure into the old glass. "We never fail to do this when we come in here," he explained, placing the glass on an old barrel that sat below the only window in the place. I looked around, taking in everything. This was where my grandfather had worked, and I could feel a presence here. "Now, we should leave," said Jeff, but he placed a hand on my arm. "You must walk in a slow, straight line, keep your eyes down, look at the floor, and don't turn back." I was surprised, but I'd agreed to his terms. I started walking slowly and carefully. I was just at the door when I heard, "Malcolm." I paused. One foot was already out of the door. The voice sounded familiar. "Yes?" Surprised, I instinctively turned back round into the room. "No!" cried Jeff and pulled me out. He tried to close the door quickly, but it stuck slightly as he pulled it to. He tried again, and then it closed immediately. "I'm sorry. I thought I heard someone call my name. I'm so sorry." Jeff wasn't listening to me. He'd put his ear against the warehouse door. "Maybe it'll be okay," said Callie, unsure. "He did have one foot out already." I hope so, murmured Jeff. "You should probably go now." As he locked the door, we all heard a noise from inside. "You really should go. I'm sorry." The rest of my trip was uneventful, although a few people I saw began to look blurry. I wondered if I needed a new prescription. Then, on the aeroplane, heading back home, I had a nightmare. The two people next to me seemed to be disfigured horribly. I saw it all play out. A happy outing, then a car crash. But as we touched down and collected our things, I had a shock. The same couple followed me out, with the same injuries from my dream, except they and no one else could see it. As the weeks went on, my waking nightmare grew worse. Everywhere I went, I could see fates unfolding, with nothing I could do to prevent it. Walking down the street became my own personal horror movie, being lived out in real time. And always of those who were destined to suffer an unnatural death. Murder victims, accidental drownings, everything was laid out before me. Gunshot wounds, marks around necks, drownings, even an axe embedded in a skull. I was not spared from their gruesome reality. I got used to seeing happy people bearing the unseen weight of their deaths. I sought help, of course I did. I went to different doctors, a neurologist, I had MRIs, but nothing changed. Except I saw that one of the doctors died after taking a selfie on a Black Diamond ski run. The only fates I couldn't see were those of children, animals, and natural deaths, as though whatever had been unleashed on me had a strange sense of mercy. There was nowhere for me to go. I contacted the distillery and spoke to Jeff. He sounded unhappy. "We thought something like this could happen after the door didn't close immediately. That's a bad sign." But at least he believed me, without question. He offered me some hope, not a cure, but respite from the onslaught of knowing. They could offer me shelter on a very small island, more of a rock really, that was owned by the distillery. It was partially let for grazing, but otherwise it was uninhabited. "It's where your grandfather spent the remainder of his days," he said. Maybe you've heard how cold it can get near Great Bear Lake in the Northwest Territories. The kind of cold that settles into your bones. But that is nothing compared to the coldness of isolation. I'd been told my grandfather had gone mad and lived alone, cutting off contact with his family. I didn't know why until now. Now I live alone, on the same small rock north of the island. There's a farmer who brings his sheep and goats to graze, but I already know how he dies. It's as clear as the spring water which surrounds me. The only people I see occasionally are those that bring regular deliveries. Most of the people I recognise, and I keep my distance. I brace myself if they ever bring someone new, because then another person's ending just might be revealed to me, and I am never wrong. Thank you for listening, and join us again next week.